The Boston Celtics are probably the most fascinating team to watch in the 2025 offseason. They were arguably already that, but after the Tatum injury, it became more obvious. The team needs to shed cap space to avoid a punishment under the new CBA. They must get under the second apron. But how do they do that? Who do they move? And are they really going to blow up a team that won a championship a year ago? Well, let's discuss that today. Now let's start with the guys that are certainly getting moved. Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday. Those two I'd bet money on will not be Celtics at the start of the 25-26 season. But who will trade for them? And what do the Celtics get back? First, let's talk about the guy I think will be harder to move in Drew Holiday. Holiday will be harder to move because of his contract. With $104 million still owed on Holiday's contract, including the player option, it's not an appeasing deal to trade for, especially with his age 37 season being the highest cap hit of $37.2 million. Now, to be fair, that is a player option, but odds are he will be accepting that player option when it comes up. So what do you think you can get back in a Holiday trade? Honestly, I don't know if you get anything back. That contract and that age makes me think you might have to trade packages in something else in a deal with Drew Holiday. A Sam Hauser, perhaps, maybe even draft picks to move the contract. But I will say there could be someone willing to take the chance and bring in Holiday to their team for one last championship push. The LA Clippers make a lot of sense. They could give up Norman Powell and Bogdan Bogdanovic that fits the Boston Celtics system, and Norman Powell could be traded later on to get draft capital back in return with what have you to rebuild more in the future, or retool. But there is a reason why I think the Clippers could be in on a Holiday. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George didn't work out for them as they hoped. Injuries played a big factor into that, but they are still in a weird phase where they're not bad enough to lose, but they're not great enough to contend. They no longer have Paul George, but they have James Harden, who is a very good shooter and playmaker. But they lack that on the defensive end with James Harden back there. Drew Holiday still provides great defense, no matter how bad his shooting was this past year, dropping nearly 30% in corner threes. He still is a very good defender and helped take away a person's best offensive player. But my concern is he is an older player, and you would be putting him on an older core in Kawhi Leonard and James Harden already. Maybe the Clippers would need draft capital from the Celtics to make the deal work, but that might be the case with any Drew Holiday trade with that contract, as I previously stated. But Holiday would fit in the Clippers' time and window of trying to win now before they ride off into the sunset. Now, the next player to be moved would be Kristaps Porzingis. Now, Porzingis, at the time of this recording, is dealing with a sickness, and it really has been reported on what it is. I've seen rumors online, but nothing substantial to actually make a report on, which makes a deal very hard to predict because we don't know the severity of his sickness, and plus he does have an injury history. But I'm going to take my best shot at this. Now, the trade I'm going to propose is going to sound crazy, but I have my reasonings why. And it's Kristaps Porzingis to the Golden State Warriors for Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield. First up, the Boston Celtics are a sneaky old team and they need some youth. Kuminga is still extremely young, and in a gap year in which the Celtics won't be contending for a championship, could take that year to maybe find a young stud in Jonathan Kuminga, giving him more playing time. Kuminga just has that ability. He has something to him that I can't quit. I believe he can be a very good defensive player, and I believe he could be a third option on a championship level team. And bringing back Buddy Hield would be a great move for the Boston Celtics. He is signed under contract long-term at a very good rate at just under $10 million until his final year. And that's something Boston would greatly appreciate due to their love of the three ball. He wouldn't be paid too much, would be a good contract in the CBA, and would lead the Celtics to having more options shooting after getting rid of a Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday, and possibly Sam Hauser as well, and maybe another guy to be mentioned here in a little bit. Also, this trade would have to be a sign and trade due to Kuminga being an RFA. There is no way the Celtics can just make the move because you need salaries to match. Kuminga would have to agree to a contract with the Boston Celtics beforehand, which could give them more incentive to do the deal, being the fact they negotiate the contract themselves. Also, Kuminga is a guy you could trade later on if it doesn't work. A one-year trial run, if it works, great, you pair him up with Tatum Brown. If not, you can ship him off somewhere else and probably get assets back for a team that thinks, hey, maybe he's still got something in there and he has a decent enough contract that you could get a player back in return that helps your team win. Now, why the trade makes sense for Golden State? Golden State needs a big, and they are clearly all in on winning before Steph Curry retires. Jimmy Butler, when he got traded to the Golden State Warriors, Kuminga fell out of favor with Steve Kerr. He was not in the lineup anymore, and it felt like to me he was clearly on his way out of Golden State. You can get a Kristaps Porzingis there, who you do have injury concerns, you do have health concerns 100%. But if he plays in the playoffs, I think you just have that extra boost that Golden State desperately missed in the Minnesota Timberwolves series, lacking another scoring option that can shoot the ball, that can be a good defensive anchor in the size with another double big era upcoming. The Golden State Warriors don't really have a counter for that, and Kristaps Porzingis could be a counter. Now let's talk about a guy I could see moved for the right price, Derek White. White has exploded on the scene in Boston, becoming a really good 3-and-D player. Now, in this hypothetical trade, it'd take a decent bit for Boston to be willing to move him, so maybe there'd be more assets involved in this trade. But for me, I found a partner in the Detroit Pistons. Derek White for Marcus Sasser, Isaiah Stewart, and a first-round pick. This trade works out for Boston because you're getting a young shooter plus a solid defensive big with a first-round pick. Marcus Sasser has a lot of ability I think that's untapped yet, especially in Boston where he could get more playing time in a gap year, which is very crucial here, as I keep mentioning, would have the chance to improve and maybe even become a Drew Holiday-esque player. Not fully as good as Drew, but if you can get a little bit of Drew Holiday in a player, you take that 100%. Isaiah Stewart would help replenish your defensive bigs. Kristaps Porzingis is not going to be there. He is going to be traded. You will have Al Horford, who will be entering his age 39 season if he does come back, but he is a UFA. They don't really have any bigs I feel comfortable playing. Isaiah Stewart gets a lot of S for how he plays, but he's physical and he is just kind of a Boston-esque player. Will be tough, gritty, and fight back, something the Celtics desperately missed in the New York Knicks series. He won't take that, he'll fight back, and hey, there might actually be a fight on the hands if he plays. Let alone Boston also getting a first-round pick helps because rookie contracts are cheaper than NBA veterans. They just are. That's how the world works. Plus, Boston has had a pretty good history of drafting. They draft well, they develop well. They have a very good system in place. Now, why would this make sense for the Detroit Pistons? That's simple. Derek White's just a better version of Malik Beasley. I don't believe Derek White is as good as a lot of people make him out to be, that he is this amazing all-star level player. I think he's a very solid player. I think he's overpaid for his contract, and that contract is a big reason why I think Boston should move him for this price. But the Pistons can take on that contract. They have a lot of young players, and they're entering the realm of contention. Derek White has won a championship. He knows what it takes to win. He could be a vocal leader in that locker room. Plus, he is a good 3-and-D player, playing opposite of Cade Cunningham, and also you don't really know how Jaden Ivey is going to be coming back from a major leg injury. Now let's address the Jaylen Brown trade talk. Brown's most likely not going to be moved, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this. It's Brown and Tatum probably for their careers in Boston. If you wanted to argue moving him solves your cap issues and gets you under the second apron, you'd be correct. But there's more there with Jaylen Brown. Even though ownership is new, I don't think they underestimate the attachment the fan base has to those two players. Trading away the guys that they're going to trade away this offseason already is going to be hard for the fan base because they just saw them win a championship. But with the new NBA CBA, they have to move these guys in order to avoid any bad punishments. Like having your first round pick be at the end of the first round, no matter where you finish in the NBA. It's something that could really hurt the Celtics in the future that they need to get out ahead of in time. Now, I think a lot of the reasons why these trades aren't going to be great is because a lot of these contracts just, quite frankly, suck. Drew Holiday's contract is brutal. Derek White's contract is not good. Kristaps Porzingis' contract is not good as well. But these deals had to be signed. They had to be signed because they won a championship. It's a championship tax. Either lose all your players or you have to overpay your players. It's either or. It's both brutal for the fan base, but it's just something that's going to happen, especially in the modern NBA with the CBA preventing any long-term dynasties. It's what the CBA is meant to do, and it's doing its good job because it's going to tear this Celtics team apart. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you share this, please, by all means. And if you disagree with me, if you're a Boston Celtics fan, or if you're just a fan of any of the teams I mentioned in a possible trade, you don't like the trade, you like it, please let me know down below. I'll talk to you about it. I'll understand your side of the story. And I do get why some of these trades suck because you do have a personal attachment to it. I saw my team win the Stanley Cup back-to-back years, and I saw the players leave, and I knew it was time, but it was painful every time I saw one of them move on or one of them get traded. But it happens in sports, and especially with how the NBA has moved towards with this new CBA, it's going to happen to every team at some point. But thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.